Welcome to another episode of the Sports Sentiment. I am your host, Nick Urias, and we are back once again talking college football. Week 2 is finally here. We got ourselves a brand new college football board after looking at the same slate of games for about 4+ months. We got ourselves a new rotation, and we are here talking San Jose State and Texas, a big time Mountain West versus SEC clash. Both teams coming off losses. Of course, San Jose State with their disappointing 16-14 loss at home against Central Michigan. And meanwhile, the Texas Longhorns coming off a 14-7 loss in that big game that a lot of people had eyes on in Columbus, Ohio versus the Ohio State Buckeyes. And we're here to talk about San Jose State versus Texas today. We got ourselves a guest on to talk and bring some insight on Texas Longhorns football. So, Cory Mose, appreciate you coming on, based out of the Austin, Texas area, and thanks for coming on to talk Spartans and Longhorns today.
Yeah, definitely excited, bro. Of course, both teams coming off losses, so trying to figure out how will they both bounce back from that week 1 deficit, and we'll see what happens. But excited for y'all to come down, see DKR, and experience a little bit of Austin.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, San Jose State and Texas, not their first rodeo playing
Mhm.
each other. I mean, they played each other in 2017. Texas demolished San Jose State 56-0. Sam Ellinger was at quarterback way back when. San Jose State had Josh Oliver at tight end, who's now in the NFL, a very successful pro career there. Spartan fans will most definitely remember Tyler Nevins at running back and an extremely young Bailey Gaither, who I know a lot of Spartan fans still a fan favorite out there in San Jose. So the last time these two teams played, it's been many moons ago, but 8 years later, we're back, and San Jose State's going back to Austin, Texas. Cory, I have to say, this is a very fascinating matchup. I know Texas is a very heavy favorite in this game, but I look at this game right off the bat and I say, both teams coming off losses. And I think this is actually a good test for Texas just because of how fast San Jose State plays on offense. I don't know if you got a chance to just see the Spartans over, last week or just overall last year in 2024. But I think San Jose State is, I think, a good challenge from just your defense as far as, how up tempo they play within their game.
Yeah, it's going to be definitely exciting to see how one can Texas have a shutout. That's always a goal for them. And I think the biggest thing after Ohio State was the lack of turnovers they were able to force. And so I know that will be a big point of emphasis. They talked about that during the Monday morning press conferences, but how all the guys on defense said they played well. Of course, you hold Ohio State to just 14 points again, shut down Jeremiah Smith again. And so the problem was they weren't able to get the ball back for the offense. And so that has been a big point of emphasis this week. And we'll see if that plays a factor on Saturday, because I know that is something that they want to accomplish. They say they have a goal of 3 turnovers per game. That's their goal. So we'll see if that happens. But that's definitely been something to look out for on Saturday.
Yeah, as far as San Jose State's concerned, well, this is going to be the highest ranked team that they've played since 2010.
Wow.
Last time they faced number 1 Alabama over a decade and a half ago. And also, this is going to be the earliest game, which I think is kind of a little underrated, I guess, maybe a little tidbit here.
Yeah.
But San Jose State, I mean, they're going 2 time zones over. This is on national TV, but this is like an 11 a.m. local kick out there in Austin. Like, this is the earliest game that they're going to be playing. I think it's like 2016 when they played Iowa State. So, West Coast, going 2 time zones over due to all the ABC, television and stuff like that. Like,
Yeah.
it's just a whole bunch of different dynamics that I think San Jose State has to, adjust to, which I just find pretty interesting. But,
What is that like for y'all, by the way? Sorry to cut you off,
no,
but
yeah, you good.
I'm interested. Like, you got to watch a game at 9 a.m. Like, that must suck, huh?
Oh, well, for me, it won't be too difficult.
Yeah.
I can't speak for the rest of the fan base, but I'm an early riser. And regardless, like our games are at 7 p.m. or 4 p.m., whatever the case may be. I'm up and early. So
Okay.
there's
I
that.
always worried about that for that, and like NFL too. Because NFL, y'all start at 10, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean that's you gotta go to church. I mean,
Hey. Yeah. I'm with you there. No, it's a little bit of an adjustment, but I have to say, as a West Coaster,
yeah.
I don't mind it.
Okay.
And I can only imagine the East Coast schedule.
Oh, I can't. I
Yeah.
couldn't be able to do that at all.
Yeah, no, thank you. Like I couldn't like if I was a Warriors fan in New Jersey and watching those games at 10:30, Eastern time, no,
Yeah.
thank you. Especially if I got work in the morning. Yeah, no way.
Exactly.
But you know, I think those are all interesting points that you got to take in going to this game. I personally think just because of how up tempo San Jose State plays, I think it's going to be a good test on your secondary. Like I said, I know your secondary is terrific. It's one of the best. I mean, you guys got 5-star talent all over the place. And, Cory, I'm just very interested to get your take on, I cover college football, on my podcast, big picture as well, beyond San Jose State. I personally think the Arch Manning, chatter after the Ohio State game is just a little bit overinflated. I understand, he's got a 5-star last name, and I imagine the NIL is, flowing through the roof over there in the Manning household. But, it's one game and it's week 1, and it was a tough environment against the defending national champs. I think people got to pump the brakes with all the narratives as far as Manning's concerned.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. It's kind of crazy how everyone predicted this. Like everyone in like the Manning family. I actually went to the Manning Passing Academy this summer and covered that event. And
Mm.
just talking to Peyton and Eli and even Archie, the grandfather, they all mentioned Archie's going to have a bad game. We don't know when it's going to happen. We don't know how soon it's going to happen, but all this praise that he's getting is going to turn into a lot of naysayers. And so they knew this was going to happen eventually because he's human. Like this is his first ever start as a quarterback was starting like QB1 as a quarterback. It was his first ever true road start. And then your first road start is against the defending national champs. I mean, come on. Like, what are we talking about? I was listening to Joe Klatt the other day, and he mentioned his first road start was in Kansas City, was at Kansas State, I should say. And he messed up twice on calling plays in the huddle. Didn't even recognize he messed up. Like it's so loud. There's so much stuff going through his head. He's over here calling the wrong formation, and he had no idea he was calling the wrong formation. He was just so fixated on trying to dissect the defense. And so, yeah, that road start is completely different. And then when you throw in having to go against a secondary like Ohio State, and then a defensive coordinator that's a Super Bowl winning defensive coordinator, Matt Patricia, I mean, it's tough. It's tough for a kid, to go out there and dissect some things. And so, yeah, I think we all knew it was going to happen. He was going to have at least one bad game, 2 bad games. I wouldn't call it a bad game, though. I would say a bad first half. Second half, he looked good. Now, he did have some misfires in the second half that kind of lost the game for them. But, yeah, there's no need to panic. I hate the hate that he's getting. I think it's too much. But then it's funny because everyone's talking about Arch. But if you look right below him on the Heisman favorites at Cade Klubnik, he didn't have a good game either. He had a really bad game, and that's coming from a dude that covered Cade in high school. He's from the Austin area, and so I know Cade a lot. He was at Manning Pass Academy. I got to chop it up with him, and he had the Heisman hope potential as well. And he had a worse game statistics wise than Arch, but no one's talking about Cade. Everyone's just on Arch, and so if you look around the college landscape, a lot of first-time starters, but even in Cade's sense, just great quarterbacks had a tough week 1 just because it's week 1. There's no preseason to get things going for college. And, you make no mistakes in week 1. And when you're playing a good opponent like a LSU, like Ohio State, that's bound to happen. And so, yeah, it's too much hate for Arch. We'll see when they play Florida after these next couple of games, get some experience underneath his belt with his offense and his receivers. And I think that next test against Florida will show us a lot.
Yeah, very interesting from your perspective. And, I guess, Texas as far as their offense is concerned, because Central Michigan, they came out and just to provide a little backstory on Central Michigan, new head coach, new OC, new defensive coordinator. San Jose State was watching all kinds of tape from everything. They were watching like NAIA tape from like Kansas Wesleyan, just to kind of get a grasp on what Central Michigan was going to run. They said it kind of threw them, not that the 13 and 14 personnel just kind of it threw them off, but it took a while to adjust to that physicality, especially in week one. I mean, Central Michigan ran for 96 rushing yards in the first quarter, and they 50 rushing attempts, north of 230 yards. It's very interesting because I think Texas can very easily say in this game, all right, let's just run the ball with Wisner and CJ Baxter. But at the same time, you kind of want to get a better understanding of what you have within your offense, your wide receivers, Arch Manning, of course, as you get into the SEC games, because quite honestly, this is kind of why you have the non-conference portion of your schedule to kind of get a better feel of these games, right? So I'm just very interested to see the offensive approach for Texas in this game, because I think they're going to know that they have success running the ball, but at the same time, you have to unlock some things and, find some things out about your team in a sense, right?
No, for sure. You're totally right. I think that's something out of all the things that we found out on Saturday with that Ohio State game, we did find out one positive, and that was Texas can run the ball. I think these last couple of big time matchups like a Georgia, I would even argue Arizona State, even the game against Clemson, if it wasn't for Jaden Blue's 75-yard run, that wasn't going to be a good running performance either. There's something about these big games that Sark kind of struggles, and the team kind of struggles to run the football against these big SEC fronts with 5-star D linemen. And so against Ohio State, it was kind of enlightening to see that they rushed for 4.5 yards per carry. I know Wisner had 5 yards per carry. CJ Baxter had 4 yards per carry. It's cool to see CJ back out there, his first game back from his torn LCL and PCL, and he looked good. And so they were able to rush for over 100 yards. I believe they rushed for 120 yards total between those two running backs against Ohio State. And that's a big deal, And so that was something that was encouraging to see. And now the question is, okay, we know that's good, but can the passing game catch up? And you're totally right. I think this is going to be a game where they may come out firing, throwing the ball 4 straight times, 5 straight times, because they want to see Arch get comfortable. I think something else to look out for in this game is Sark mentioned at the post game against Ohio State, he wished he would have ran Arch a little bit earlier. He didn't run his first true quarterback run until the second quarter. And he felt like Arch settled down after he started to let him run a little bit. And so we'll see if Sark takes that his own advice and uses some manufactured run plays for Arch early in the game against San Jose, because that's clearly something that helps him settle down with these game time matchups. So yeah, I don't think we're going to see a lot of like run heavy Texas. I think we will see pass heavy early if they get up, then maybe we start to see them slow the ball down, run the clock. But to start the game, I fully expect them to sling it around to make sure Arch is comfortable and the offense looks good through the air.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting dynamic, and you guys got these 3 non-conference games, versus San Jose, UTEP, Sam Houston. I think first and foremost, I don't know if you have Ole Miss on the schedule this year, but San Jose State's probably going to be the most fastest offense you see all year. So wow. I think and because, you're going to get into those SEC grudge matches, and then the crowds take over and everybody can't hear each other. Like Craig Stutzman at offensive coordinator, the second year out here in San Jose, he kind of made it simple. Like, hey, we're going to just come out here and we're going to just run our stuff.
Yeah.
So Walker Egan, San Jose State quarterback, he's going to continue to throw that deep ball. Danny Scudero, San Jose State wide receiver, plays the slot. Just incredibly dynamic last week. 9 receptions, 189 yards, and a touchdown. So that is obviously a guy that I think everybody should have circled across the board, no matter who you have in this fight. He had a 45-yard catch and run for a touchdown, a 46-yard bomb on a go route, one-on-one on the outside. So I just think that Scudero, he might break away for a catch and run in this game at some point in this one. Also, this is a big game for Leland Smith, SJSU wide receiver, came over from Purdue during the off season. He's from Houston, Texas. Corey, I don't know if
Mm.
you have any affiliation in talking with him or anything
No,
because
I'm
he's a
from Houston.
Texas kid.
What part of Houston are you from?
I don't entirely know, but
Okay.
he's got I didn't talk to him. I haven't talked to him yet this week, but he's got tons of friends and family coming out to this game. So you already know he's going to want to show up and show
Yeah.
out. So that is obviously a dynamic in this game. Don't be surprised if SJSU takes a deep ball shot with him because he's kind of, their one-on-one guy on the outside where they just kind of say, hey, go get a 50-50 ball. The
Hmm.
Spartans are going to take their shots. I think, at some point you might have, Texas, just read Walker Eget's eyes and, maybe they do jump a route and, make a fantastic play. But I do think at the same time, SJSU, because of, their prolific offense and because of, things being it's such a timing offense, they could have some success here and there. I think if they do have success, it's going to be early on in this game because I do think ultimately Texas is going to adjust. And I just think they have too many weapons, across the board in so many different areas. So I don't know. I think it's very interesting, but San Jose State, I think at some point in this game, I think early on is going to make a splash, and I think could potentially silence this crowd for a second or two here.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited to see it, and just more importantly, just from San Jose State's perspective, just to see how they handle this crowd. Right? I mean, they've been working all these silent counts. Corey, I can tell you right now, and I know a lot of teams do this before, going into a rambunctious environment, they will just pump the fight song on the big speakers. So they've been playing the Texas fight song all throughout the practices this week. So that intel I could definitely provide for you. So they're preparing any way possible for this environment because, quite honestly, a lot of kids haven't played in this environment.
Yeah. And it's going to be over 100,000 fans. And so, yeah, it's definitely different if you haven't come into a stadium like this. And so it's one thing to prepare, but once you're in it, it's different. Yeah, it definitely is. And so, yeah, I'm excited to see how they adjust to that as well. I'm also excited to see this Jordan Pollard kid. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I've just heard a lot about him, about his speed, and what he's able to do defensively. And that may be a guy for us to look out for when it comes to, like you said, shutting up the crowd a little bit. I could see him making a play that does so. And so, talk to me about Jordan. Like, what makes him so special?
He's just a tackling machine. I mean, he had 15 tackles last week. I think that was like number 3, like amongst the country, like as far as total tackles by an individual player last week in week 1. He's a tackle machine. I thought, there was some stretches where, he could have been a little better. I think just the defense as a whole would probably agree that there was some miscommunications here and there. I just think last week the game was so physical that, they were in week 1 with new personnel. You're going to have those missed lapses, but Jordan is just a home run hitter. As far as like he's gonna make a play like the TFLs, like he's just a very versatile linebacker. Like he will come downhill, and if you need him to blitz, he'll come rolling in hot, and all of a sudden you got a -3 yards on a play, and then he's out there in coverage making a tackle or having a pass breakup. So he's definitely a dynamic player. When you look at him and you kind of get up there in person with him, you think like, wow, this is like the tackling machine. And he's, quite frankly, you think he would be bigger than what you would anticipate. But yeah, that is definitely a guy that San Jose State's very lucky to have. They've had a plethora of linebackers over the years come through their pipeline and just produce. And yeah, that's definitely a guy that I think everybody should have circled as far as names to keep an eye on, because like you said, he's more than capable of making a play there.
Yeah, definitely excited to see him play.
Yeah. As far as Texas and as far as their wide receivers,
Yeah.
Parker Livingstone, he was probably, like, I would say, your most productive guy last week with the touchdown snag. Emmett Mosley is a guy that I've seen in person. He was at Stanford last year.
Yeah, facts. You got some familiarity.
Yeah. I don't know his status for this game. I don't. I know he's been battling an injury.
Yeah.
But I'm just very interested to see your wide receivers, and I think you guys as a fan base are very interested to see what this room has to the table because there are tons of underclassmen here.
Yeah, super young room. I think you saw that though against Ohio State. Ohio State had a ton of talent and experience in that secondary. Of course, you have Caleb Downs. Everyone knows Caleb Downs. But then their new addition with Jermaine Matthews Jr. I mean, he caught the pick against Arch. He almost had a second pass breakup that turned into a pick if Sonny Styles would have caught that tip ball. But he was a dude that I didn't know coming into the game, and after the game, I knew his name after that. So you also throw in Igbinosin on the other side at corner for Ohio State. So they had a lot of dudes that are about to be in the draft next year compared to Texas's wide receiver one, who's just a true sophomore, Ryan Wingo. And so, yeah, that experience definitely played a factor on Saturday. And I think that's something that Texas fans are trying to look out for as the season goes on is this wide receiver room ready?
For
Not just
sure.
ready to like win games, but ready to win a championship. Because I
Yeah.
think last year you saw that with, I believe, what's the word, Penn State. Penn State was a school where they just didn't have the talent on the outside to get separation, to make splash plays, and that ultimately played a factor in them losing in the college football playoff. And so Texas fans are hoping that okay, these dudes in Ryan Wingo, DeAndre Moore Jr., Parker Livingston, and of course Evan Mosley, will they become their own? Will they grow up fast? Because Texas needs them to, because they have everything else. You think you have the quarterback. You know for sure you have the defense. Offensive line and running game, like I mentioned, that checked the boxes. That was a question going into Ohio State, but now it's a check. They can run the football. So can these wide receivers get separation against top tier secondaries? That's still something that's an unknown. And Saturday would be a great little kickstart to seeing some success through the air, not just for Arch, but for that wide receiver room because they need to build their confidence as well.
Yeah, no doubt. And I feel like we could say the same about San Jose State because as good as Danny Scudero looked, and San Jose State had some banged up bodies at the wide receiver position over the course of that Central Michigan game. They also want to see what they have in Leland Smith, and this might be like a little bit of an uphill battle as far as you don't really see the full capabilities because of the opponent. But at the same time, I think it's a good reality check for all parties involved. Just to see where this team is at, and I think the team would feel a whole lot more confident with the win under their belt. But now that they got this one coming up, I think, in a sense, I think it's an experience that they're gonna learn from, and I think they'll gather, and I think ultimately it's gonna help them as they get into Mountain West play. I think that's why it's important that you play these games, and especially from Texas's perspective, it's important that you kind of have this window. Like you got the Ohio State game out the door. As much as the loss hurts, now you got this three game window. All three of them are at home where you can just go and just learn about your team. I think from a Walker Eget perspective for San Jose State, like, look, this is a great test for him. It's only going to prepare him for the league schedule. And from the Texas perspective with Arch Manning, I don't know how long he's going to play this game. I would hope he plays 3 quarters just for the greater good of him and just getting experience out there. Because Cory, there's nothing like going 11 on 11 and
Yeah.
gathering live reps, right? So I would
Mhm.
hope. I don't care what the scoreboard looks like in this one. I would hope he gets 3 quarters in this game.
Yeah, I think that should be the goal, right? Just because you didn't see what you wanted to see against Ohio State. You saw flashes, but the consistency wasn't there. So if you can get 3 consistent quarters out of Arch, yeah, that'll be helpful. And that's why I think that they're definitely going to test the air early. They're not going to waste time running the football. I think they want to make sure that Arch is comfortable, but they also want to see something from Arch. They want to see him make throws that he needs to make, but more importantly, make reads because he made throws on Saturday. That throw down the sideline to Jack Injuries was beautiful. That little keyhole shot on that final drive. He made another throw to Ryan Wingo, I believe, kind of the next play between the corner and the safety on the post route. That was a beautiful throw as well. So you saw flashes, but the consistency wasn't there with his accuracy. And so I think that throughout these 3 quarters against San Jose State, they would want to see some type of consistency with his accuracy compared to just making splash plays. And so, yeah, I don't think they have any indication of trying to just leave him in for 2 quarters. I think the goal is definitely three. I don't even know like if unless they're up by a lot, like I don't see him coming out the game in the fourth quarter, because that's just something that even last year with Quinn, Arch never really came in until the fourth quarter. And if I'm remembering correctly, there wasn't a lot of games where he would come in at the beginning of the fourth. There'll be some games where he just came in the middle of the fourth, and Quinn would bleed into the fourth quarter playing. And so, yeah, I don't know how Sark is going to do it, because honestly, there's not like a lot of guys that they need to see reps at quarterback at the second spot. Maybe Matt Caldwell, who's transferring over. He's a senior that transferred over to be the QB2. So maybe you want to see him get some live reps. But I think everyone believes Arch needs as many reps as possible. So I'm interested to see you make a good point there. Like I'm interested to see like how long they keep Arch in the game, because he needs these reps more than anybody.
100%. And if you're San Jose State, just from a special teams perspective, you just need better special teams play. I think all fans can agree with that. When you have 2 missed field goals late in the game versus Central Michigan, they got to be better. I thought the play calling could have been a little bit better down the stretch in that game. So, like I said, it's going to be a very good test for this team. And I think, like I said, they're going to have some success early. I think Texas is going to gain some separation later on in this one, but I think it's a good learning experience and environment to go into for all parties involved here. Cory, thanks for coming on to talk about the matchup. We're gonna definitely be just chatting down the road for sure. We're gonna get you on the podcast once again just to talk Texas big picture as we get into the SEC. So thanks for coming on today. And where can people find your work, man?
Yeah, dude. So first off, thank you for letting me come on. I definitely appreciate the opportunity, but then also to find my work, I have a very unique name, so that helps out a lot. So just Cory Mose on Twitter and Facebook and IG, TikTok. I think on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, it's just Cory_Mose, Mose. So not a lot of people have my last name, or if anybody. So that's very helpful when it comes to finding my social media. So if you just search my name, Cory Mose, on all platforms, you'll be able to find me.
Awesome. There you have it. There's Cory Mose. Appreciate the time. Once again, I am your host, Nick Urias, and be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcast.